Hello everyone, welcome to the show, So You Think You Know the 12 Levels of Biological Organization. We are going to go through all 12 levels of organization: molecules, organelles, cells, tissues, organs, organ systems, organism, populations, communities, ecosystems, biomes, and biosphere. Let's see how much you really know and make sure to pay attention for the quick quiz at the end.
Round 1. The first level is molecules. It is the formation of chemical bonds between two or more atoms that leads to the formation of a molecule. It is one of the most fundamental and stable components of matter. A real-world example is ATP in an animal and chlorophyll in a plant. An analogy for molecules is that they are like the ingredients that make up parts of bricks, such as clay. Round 2. Organelles. The second level is organelles. It consists of a group of functioning molecules from the first level, and it is a subunit of a cell. Organelles take part in the chemical reactions and interactions in the cellular processes of an organism. A real-world example is the mitochondria in animals and the chloroplast in plants. An analogy for organelles is that they are like the headers, frogs, and stretchers, which are parts of the bricks and each with unique functions. Cells. Cells are the basic building blocks in all living things. They bring about the conversion of nutrients and energy, reproduction, or cell division, and also carry out other specialized functions. A real-world example is a skeletal muscle cell, or muscle fiber, in an animal, and a palisade cell in a plant. Continuing with our analogy, cells are like bricks made from parts in the previous levels of organization.
The fourth level is tissues. This level is a combination of different cells which perform specialized functions. The group of cells that form a tissue don't always have to be identical, but do come from the same place. A real-world example is the skeletal muscle tissue in animals and the mesophyll tissue in plants. Tissues would be the brick wall made from individual bricks or cells. Round 5. The fifth level is organs. They perform certain functions and are made by multiple tissues. A real-world example is the bicep brachii muscle in European rabbit and the leaves on an American boxwood shrub. In our analogy, the brick wall or tissues come together to form a room or an organ. Round 6. The sixth level is the organ systems. The organs work together to perform certain functions and form the organ systems. A real-world example is the muscular system of a European rabbit and the shoot system of an American boxwood shrub. The organ systems regulate the organism and allows the organism to maintain homeostasis, or stable equilibrium. An analogy is an entire floor of rooms in a building. If the brick room is an organ, then a floor of rooms in a building can represent an organ system.
Round 7. Organism. The seventh level is organisms. An organism can be defined as the fully functional form of a living being that can thrive in a particular environment. Organisms use various organ systems to function successfully. Now, we get to meet our plant and animal organisms, the American boxwood shrub and the European rabbit. For our analogy, multiple floors, our organ systems, come together to form a building, which represents an organism. Round 8. Population. The eighth level is population, which is a group of organisms that belong to a same species. The population of a particular species indicates a close interaction between its organisms. A real-world example is a group of American boxwood shrubs in an area, such as a field, or a fluffle of European rabbits. Within each population, organisms have to interact with each other. Rabbits have to compete with other rabbits for food and resources, and shrubs have to compete with other shrubs for nutrients and water. For an analogy, if a building is an organism, then a city would represent the population. Round 9. Communities. The ninth level is communities. Two or more populations together constitute a community. Communities are characterized by interactions that take place between populations of different species. These interactions include competition, as well as parasitism, predation, commensalism, and mutualism. In our real-world example, we can see a population of European rabbits, American boxwood shrubs, grass, and other biotic factors. The relationship between the rabbit and the shrub is predation, because the rabbits eat the shrubs. For our analogy, if cities are populations, then a state, which consists of many cities, is a community.
Round 10. Ecosystems. A community plus abiotic aspects equals an ecosystem. They are areas or environments where one or more communities can flourish. This allows for the populations of many different species to thrive in a particular ecosystem, like a desert, grassland, or rainforest. An ecosystem also consists of all living or biotic features and non-living or abiotic factors in a given area. A real-world example is a temperate grassland ecosystem. Here you can see the added mud, water, rocks, and atmosphere.
For our analogy,
if a state relates to a community, then a country relates to an ecosystem. Round 11. The 11th level is biomes. A group of similar ecosystems with the same general type of physical environment is called a biome. Classification of this level is carried out on the basis of certain criteria like the environmental conditions in which constituent organisms thrive.
A real-world example is the North American grassland biome. For our analogy,
if a country is an ecosystem, then a continent would be a biome. Round 12. The last level is the biosphere. The biosphere is the part of Earth where all life exists, including all the land, water, and air where living things can be found. The biosphere consists of many different biomes. It is the unity of all life forms on Earth and contains the entire system. Lastly,
for our analogy,
if the biome is a continent, then the biosphere is the planet.
Here's an illustration of all 12 biological levels with our animal and plant examples. Each level builds up the next like a tower of blocks. If you take out or move just one block, then the entire tower is disrupted and becomes unstable. Now let's talk about the big picture, how interactions on individual levels impact higher and lower levels, as well as the stability of the entire environment. This can be good and bad in different ways. When the systems function correctly, then stability is assured. However, if a certain level is disrupted, things can go badly. For example, if there is too much competition occurring within a community, then it will create a ripple effect. Using our rabbits to demonstrate, if a new parasite was introduced that consumed the boxwood shrub, then it will increase competition between populations and disrupt communities. The rabbits would have to fight over limited resources, which will eventually be depleted, and other populations that have a predation relationship with the rabbit population will suffer as well. This disrupted community will throw off the next level, which is the entire ecosystem. Overall, it would cause a loss of biodiversity and decrease universal stability. Additionally, oftentimes humans are the cause for disruption of environments. For instance, mass urbanization reduces an area's ability to harbor biotic life forms and pollutes many other important abiotic factors. This can destroy entire ecosystems and force populations to migrate, which reduces their interactions and decreases biodiversity. A decrease or loss in biodiversity is bad, as biodiversity is the variation of life forms on the planet, and it is extremely important to have a lot of biodiversity to keep the biosphere stable.
Now it's time for the quick quiz. Question 1. Which of the following are the basic building blocks of all living organisms? Take this time to pause the video and think about your answer. Did you say B, cells? Cells are the basic building blocks of all living organisms. Question 2. Which factor is key in determining overall stability? The correct answer is D, biodiversity. Biodiversity is crucial in determining overall stability of the biosphere. Last question. Question 3. If a cell is like a brick, then what is like a tissue? Did you say A, a brick wall? Cells come together to form a tissue in the same way that multiple bricks would come together to form a brick wall. Here are our sources in APA format. And thanks for tuning in. Catch you next time on the So You Think You Know show.